Yes, everybody, welcome back to Stretford, Paddock. Stephen Howson, joined by Maram. Thank you for joining me again. We're going to be looking at the data. We're going to see exactly how Ralf Rangnick, in 45 minutes and one Zoom call, has changed Manchester United.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right, Maram, we saw yesterday at Old Trafford, Manchester United managed to beat Crystal Palace 1-0. It was a tricky game for us, but I think we all started to see some green shoots of progress. We saw little changes, not mega drastic changes, but they certainly were a step in the Ralf Rangnick direction. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely in the way that we implemented it as well, so quickly, with the amount of time that Rangnick has had. So there's some good signs to look forward to, I think.
Right, so we all kind of felt it, we all kind of saw it. We started to see different shape. A couple of things that I think we noticed was we looked like we had a lot higher line. We looked like we tried to engage higher. I think we won the ball back more in the opposition third than we have since Fergie. Did the data stack up with that?
Yeah, definitely, and I can show that with our passing network. You can see from our average positions the compact shape that we had, and it kind of forced difficulties for Crystal Palace and didn't allow them to play through us so easily. Whereas, for example, against Liverpool, Manchester City, we struggled in that regard, especially how compact we are in the vertical lines and the vertical spaces was quite nice. But what I especially liked is how wide and high the fullbacks, both of them were. I think sometimes under Oli, maybe it was a bit Luke Shaw more advanced and Wan-Bissaka was forced a bit more to his own half. But we saw that both fullbacks were pushed high and wide and gave us incredible width to work with. And one last thing that I really liked is, I've been complaining about this for ages under Oli, is that the space between McTominay and Fred, they stand too close to each other and doesn't allow us to stretch the opposition. But we did that quite well in terms of allowing Fred to push forward at times, making late runs into the box, and those movements and combinations just gave us all that dynamism. I don't know, whatever.
I'm actually shocked that Fred's average involvement was a bit deeper than Scott's. From my own memory, I thought I had Fred kind of this high up the pitch because that's where he looked like he was engaging. But I guess because this is an average, this is going to include things like when he's made tackles on the edge of the box, when he's covered into the left channel, that sort of things in it. So yeah, so I like the structure of this, and I know we're gonna pop over to the next slide in a second. And I think in fact that'd be a good time to go to actually. The one thing that I love between these two, and even though this is showing the opposite to what we've just described with Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, that wasn't typical. Obviously, it was the opposite way around. But the height of Manchester United's line on the left-hand side here, as you can see, showing just how high up we were pushing, not looking to try and protect for pace, not looking to try and just literally just getting up to the halfway line. And as you mentioned earlier, being vertical from and compact from where the top of the forward is to the bottom of the defender is, that helps with pressing, because you can't press. Like I said on this side here, if we look at this is Dan James and say Bruno, they probably would have been the ones predominantly pressing because it wouldn't have been Pogba or Mason. If you looked at the pressing in there, if they can press to the edge of the box, the D, if our defence is halfway into our half, it's very easy to play through because the gaps are there. But when you compress the pitch, and there was at times United was even probably just outside of the whole circle, we was completely in their half and boxing them in and denying any kind of space.
Yeah.
So I like that this is represented. Not only is it represented, it's a real nice shape as well. It's a little bit mixed up here because I think Sancho probably swapped wings at one point as well, didn't he? And these two kind of mixed and matched. But there's such a, I mean, what formation is that supposed to be? Really?
No, to be honest, what I really liked here is that, yes, sometimes under Oli, United were advanced into the opposition half, then we are applying pressure. But what happened in Rangnick's first game is that we were collectively advanced. The team were moving together as one unit. When they pressed, they all pressed together. When they retreated, they all retreated together. And I think that implementing that in 45 minutes is kind of incredible, to be honest. And I think Rangnick touched upon that as well. But when we overloaded, we actually exploited that space often on the right. And look at how many passing options Delo was offering himself in terms of being the correct positions to receive. I think one issue we may need to work on is that often when he did receive, he was double teamed and we couldn't progress that ball as much or as good as we could have. But there's definitely signs for improvement, and it's looking good so far, is that we have balance in the way that we're moving forward. When you compare that to Oli, it was a bit more dependent on the individuals, especially when you have a free roam Bruno. He's going to just roam into whatever the spaces United are more comfortable progressing in, and that's going to lose our balance. And again, that's something to work with here. But with Oli, it was always dependent on individuals. How could they advance? Luke Shaw, how could he progress rather than the team as a collective? Which I find quite interesting to see those changes and improvements already.
I'm glad you spoke about balance, because that's something that I think anybody could see with United. Obviously, we all are aware of Wan-Bissaka's limitations on the ball as an offensive fullback, but also with playing someone like Mason Greenwood on the right-hand side, he thinks he's a centre-forward. So even if he starts on the right-hand side, in his head he's like, I'm not staying there. And he's going to come ghosting up on the back side of the D. And so often, Manchester United would attack down the left-hand side, Shaw would be here, Pogba would be here, Rashford would be here, and it become very easy for a defence to just go halfway across the pitch and make it compact against us. When you attack with width, and you've always got that switch-out option to the far flank, especially if you've got the likes of Sancho, because even though they're looking like they're just in the centre and the half spaces, we're not really in the wings, it's only the full-backs that are in the wings. When we get into the final third, that does level out, and that does push out into the wings and look for spaces. I think as we start progressing this, I thought yesterday we saw green shoots of an identity. But it looked like the players knew their primary objective once they got on the ball. It looked like they was trying to move the ball forward in 4 or 5 less touches, in 4 or 5 less passes, trying to get it into the final third. Not at all costs, but with a more of a purpose than we've seen, I think, under Ole.
Yeah.
But it wasn't slick and it wasn't efficient. And I think that's where Rangnick's got the work to do. Yes, it's all right telling them what to do, but them getting the muscle memory to be able to know, and Sancho knowing that if it comes to, say, Ronaldo in the right half space, he needs to push on beyond so him and Dalot can start attacking down that side. And then as soon as it comes to him, he needs to know the average position that Dalot's going to take up so he can turn around and give it him and then move on. Those are the things that I think you'll get more efficient, slicker, they'll just get tighter. And I think that's where United are going to really start to kick on from. But I thought it was a great start yesterday.
Yeah, I think the framework is there. It just needs time, patience and efficiency, and the players need to subscribe to it.
Yeah.
And looking at Bruno's post-match conference, post-match talk, is that they actually knew what they were doing. They said, coach wanted us to press. We did that in the first 30, 20 minutes, and I thought they did that really good. So it's all about giving them a framework to go off on, and then allow the team to basically bring out their strengths and hide their weaknesses. And I think as a structure, we looked much better than we did this season.
So we got the press intensity as well.
Yeah.
I think that obvious dip for sort of that middle 15 minutes or so, middle 15, 30 minutes, I think we all felt that in the ground as well.
Yeah.
I think, as you mentioned, the first 30 was excellent. I think that was really encouraging. I think that got the crowd on its feet. I think everyone was really enjoying that. And I would suggest the latter two was mainly down to substitutions.
What I like, to be honest, so what this graph is basically showing us is the passes allowed per defensive action, and United tried to really squeeze them and not allow any passes to go through and play through them, and I thought that was quite nice, and they did that pretty consistently for a good 30 minutes.
Is that successful defensive action?
Yes.
Right. So, on average, first 15 minutes, we allowed 7.5 passes. Palace had.
Yeah.
Palace allowed us 7.5 passes.
So we allowed
we had like
9.8, yeah. But we got off on a really great foot for the next 20 minutes.
Completely dominated possession for a while.
Yeah, you mentioned at the start of the video that Manchester United had the most, they won possession 12 times in the opposition half, and that's the most they've done under Sir Alex Ferguson, and that came from a structured way in terms of their pressing. It wasn't just Bruno running all the way to the goalkeeper. There was actually coordinated movements, and even Ronaldo did well in terms of closing down passing angles. And you don't need your players to run after every single one of those opposition back lines. You just need them to close the passing lanes. And that a lot of people confuse pressing with running.
Yes.
It's not the same. You don't need to run. And I think we executed that really well. And I think under that time frame, I think that was a correct approach. And slowly after the second half, when we made that substitution, Elanga, I think we started gaining our momentum back as well. And that Fred scored right around here. So that was quite nice. I really enjoyed our pressing intensity. I think it was a breath of fresh air. And that mid-block was quite nice. And I didn't even recognise Manchester United the first 20 minutes. Did you?
No, there was an air of expectation in the ground, and it kind of was good that it delivered. I think Ralf mentioned this in his post-match press conference, that all we was lacking was 1 or 2-0. And
Yes.
I think he's absolutely bang on. There were chances. We did create some chances. We just didn't manage to get over the line. I can't remember if we mentioned this in our last video or if it's one of the million other videos that I've been on. But we mentioned about Ronaldo's press, and there's so many questions about, is Ronaldo going to press? And what I was saying, he doesn't need to press. He just needs to man-mark somebody.
Yeah.
And that can just be being 2 metres away from someone. If he's this close to a defender and you're the other side centre-half, you look up, you go, well, I'm not passing it in. Not when Ronaldo's on him.
Yeah, so I think the weakness of Ronaldo's pressures is a bit overrated at this point. I think
he is in the 1 percentile of it.
Fair enough, but I think that can be that out of all of his weaknesses or the issues that he brings on the table. Of course, he's an excellent goal scorer. But out of all of these issues, pressing is the one that can be most worked around when you have a decent structure.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to. I don't think he needs to look like a prime Tevez.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't need to do
stop
that.
it
Yeah, just be an obstacle. I will say, just be an obstacle.
Yeah, I think he will manage that fine. What's the next lad that we've got?
Good question. Oh, our defensive territory. Okay, so this was quite nice. So basically, I planted all of our defensive actions and I split the pitch into 5 sections to see where we won the ball most. And from the start, what I really liked is that opposition half, that 26%. From those recoveries, a lot of these sequences actually ended up in shots and ended up in the penalty box.
Yes.
And that means that we were actually utilising, when we won the ball, we were actually utilising that to initiate attacks, and that was quite nice. It gave United a bit of, I don't want to say the dynamism. What is the word?
Dynamism.
There we go. It gave United a bit of dynamism, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And there was a couple of clips that I pulled out last night, actually, looking at some of those actions where we did win the ball in this sort of area, and we did immediately look to play forward and try and get a shot. So that was really pleasing for us to see.
Yeah.
And again, I think we've had one training session. I think these are the things you're going to see really embedded into the structure of the club.
Yeah, I think, again, I have to highlight, we have to be patient. But also when you look at how we were in our own half, I think we were trying to basically force the pressure onto Crystal Palace and force that average defensive engagement higher onto them, rather than inviting it and causing problems for ourselves. I think that was quite nice as well.
We mentioned this before, I still think this is skewed. I think that's Wilf Zaha. I think this is Wilf Zaha.
Perhaps, yeah, and that just plays into my point that we need a bigger sample size, but I think, again, it's a very good skeleton to go from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I also think Crystal Palace didn't help themselves. They insisted on playing out against a team that they knew was probably going to be working a new press. When they have Benteke against, so many times we caught them out playing out. No,
but did they know? Because it was one session. Us fans were surprised. I'd say that Crystal Palace as well.
I think
in terms of our execution was really good in those 20 minutes. I was not expecting that.
Would you have done it if you was Vieira, though? If you know that Ralf Rangnick's coming, you know that he's known for getting
I think you stick to what you know, to be honest. This team's been playing really well in possession and in their pressing structure under Vieira, and I think, to be honest,
I'd have gone along to Benteke against Lindelof.
Yeah, I was worried about that. I was surprised that didn't happen.
I was worried about that. Lindelof had a great game, I thought. Or
a
comfortable game, yeah.
He did.
And I don't remember once, it probably did happen, someone's going to be like, 52nd minute, what was you watching? But someone's probably going to pull it out. I don't remember there being a direct issue, but I highlight that in my preview.
Yeah, Rangnick mentioned maybe like 16 times control, and I think we really had control in terms of, even when they had possession, there was no chaos, there was no panic.
No.
And that was nice.
That's going to be the new buzzword, isn't it, under Rangnick?
Yes, control? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, what's the next one that we've got?
Okay, so just to, again, sample size is really important here, but just to get an idea of where Ralf Rangnick is looking to improve this United side in terms of the defensive territory. So what I did was, this is again our last game. Yep. This is Manchester United under Ole this season, which is sort of say our worst appearances or our worst fixtures. And then this is Manchester United last season completely under Ole. Perhaps is one of his best seasons with us. So you can automatically see that huge difference in terms of how we're approaching the opposition half.
11% more in this sort of band outside the box.
Yeah, and that's a big fundamental in terms of how we're pressing. is that we're actually using that to initiate our attacks.
Something really bizarre there. There's almost like an aversion to making challenges right on the halfway line there.
Oh, that can actually be so when the actual analysts are collecting the data, they're averse to so that can be as well. Just a fun fact for you.
Interesting.
But yeah, even seeing how, for example, we approach just outside the penalty box, it's more of pushing the opposition forward rather than inviting the pressure. And I think those are some exciting signs. Again, sample size, but exciting signs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest one. Obviously, the one that jumps out is the 26%.
Yeah.
In that third.
And when you're inviting that pressure, you're putting your back line in trouble. So players like Maguire, Lindelof, they're going to struggle constantly being inviting that pressure and constantly being under attack without the protection, for example, from their forwards. But when you're pressing, you're actually moving as a collective, and that's forcing the opposition to push deeper as well. So
the other sort of consequence of pressing in these areas is if you've got, let's say, a Virgil van Dijk, you get him on the ball, you allow him to knock the ball out of his feet and send one. He's got a pretty good accuracy with them sort of long balls. Now, if you press him, his accuracy is going to decrease, which means that you're putting your centre halves under less pressure anyway, because the balls coming in are just not as accurate, not as dangerous.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, this is my favourite one. I just basically plotted the top 3 progressive passers from yesterday's game, and it actually quite surprised me. For me, I've been plotting this for ages, and I always expect Bruno Fernandes to be at the top, simply because of the responsibility that we give him in terms of progression and creation and build-up.
And he's third behind.
Yes, and it was actually our 2 fullbacks. So something that we've been banging our drums on forever is that United are too left-sided, too dependent on Luke Shaw. But the highest progressive passer was actually Diogo Dalot, and I think he was really quite impressive in build-up in terms of how he was moving the ball forwards, and that just re-emphasises the point of the balance that we had up those flanks, supplying those runs.
This was the goal, wasn't it? You played it up to Greenwood.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I actually thought, I know that we haven't got a slide for this, but I think it's worth noting, I thought we played out better yesterday as well.
Yes, we did.
And one of the things that I saw, which I haven't seen him do for United, was Harry Maguire drove the ball.
He does that a lot, to be fair.
He does that a lot for England. He does not do that a lot.
No, he does, because... No, he does that a lot for us. But again, I have to re-emphasize this point, is that our back line has not been given protection. So when they, for example, see an opportunity to move forward, they're going to hesitate because they know, for example, Maguire's lack of agility, he knows he's going to have to second guess and think about, am I going to be able to recover? Yeah.
Maguire,
but when you have a defensive structure...
He doesn't drive out from our box with it, though. That was new. That was definitely new.
No, but when you have a defensive structure, protects him, covers for him when he drives forward, players are going to have more confidence overall, and I think that's going to improve under Rangnick. Maguire's actually really good when it comes to carrying the ball forwards and breaking those lines. And trust me, it's going to happen. Yeah. All
right, Maram, thank you very much. If you'd like to go and follow Maram on Twitter, I suggest you do. There's a link in the description to go and check out this and some of the other data that you've pulled up as well. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to Maram for coming and sharing some of this data.
Yeah.
And I guess we're going to be doing this a lot more often now because there's actually things that are tactically interesting to view. And there's going to be so much new that we're not expecting. If there was one thing that you haven't yet anticipated seeing, what do you think it's going to be? Because Dalot's a surprise for me. And I think there's probably still some more to come from this, I think.
I don't know, and I actually like not knowing for once. I want to be surprised. I want to be a fan. I want to be surprised. I think how we've utilised... a lot of people thought Tellez and Dalot were scraps. They needed to be sold. But under a better structure, they're actually not that bad, and they can actually offer utility. So United are not going to die when Luke Shaw is out or Maguire is out. So it's actually been great utilising our entire squad. I'm excited for players like Anthony Elanga. I think he's going to have a really good shot.
He was a surprise inclusion yesterday, but he looked good when he came on.
Yeah, they did say that he did well in the training session. I think his energy and movement off the ball is going to be really valuable for us.
I think Ethan Laird could come back next season and really push the low as well.
Ooh, I hope so.
Right, that's it from us. You guys get in the comments, let us know what's the one surprising thing that we've maybe not seen just yet that you're sure that you're like, listen, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, whatever it's going to be. Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Laters.